It seems those irritating telemarketers can find you anywhere, anytime. When you're home, especially during dinner, and even when you're not home, they fill up your answering machine. In particular, there's this guy named Paul. He seems to be everywhere at the same time. And how is that possible? Once again, the tapes tell the tale. Here's Chief Consumer Correspondent Lee Thompson.
It can be annoying enough when telemarketers call with a sales pitch.
Yes, is Mr. Ellison available?
But what about this?
Hello, I'm calling as part of a nationwide effort to allow more homeowners to have energy-efficient windows installed.
That's not a person calling. It's a computer playing a recorded sales pitch. Recorded sales calls can be especially annoying. You can't interrupt them to stop the spiel, and their messages can fill up your answering machine. For companies, telemarketing recording systems are a cheap, no-hassle way to advertise. But for people like Robert Braver of Oklahoma, they are infuriating.
You don't have the control to immediately stop the presentation, to find out what company you're dealing with, to tell them that you don't want to be called anymore.
Braver has been fighting telemarketers for years and sometimes even sues them when he thinks they are breaking the law.
This is with regards to a number of telemarketing calls that I received.
A few years ago, when Braver got this call, he wasn't sure what he was dealing with.
Hello, hold on a second. Hi, I've had your name and number with me for a couple of days, and I've been trying to reach you.
At first, it didn't dawn on Braver that this was a recording. After all, the caller sounded unrehearsed, even a little befuddled. Braver assumed he was talking to a real person, a struggling businessman named Paul.
This is Paul, and I've just recently expanded my small carpet cleaning business here in the area.
I try to interrupt him to say, hey, wait a second, and then I find out that it's a pre-recorded message. And I found that pretty insulting.
He also thought Paul's story was a little fishy. So did Dateline. In fact, we found that exact recording playing all over the country, from Ohio
This is Paul, and
to Texas,
this is Paul, and
South Carolina to New Jersey,
this is Paul, and this is Paul, and
Florida, Minnesota, Kentucky.
this is Paul.
Always the carefully crafted and executed sales pitch.
Paul seems to be everywhere at once.
Well, not exactly. Paul is not running any of those carpet cleaning businesses in any of those states. But his company, operating out of this office building in Houston, Texas, is behind the phone calls. It not only sells the equipment, but also the voice and the pitch to businesses all across the country. Braver learned Paul didn't run the carpet cleaning company in Oklahoma either. This man, Jeff Citro, does.
My name isn't Paul.
And Braver found out other things in the recorded message weren't true either, like this.
I've hired 3 extra guys to work for me, and I'm offering my very best prices the entire year.
Jeff Citro admits that was a lie. He hadn't hired 3 men, he worked alone, and his prices weren't better than any other time. Citro, like many other small business people, signed a multi-year lease agreement amounting to about $20,000 for the telemarketing system and the clever sales recording. Citro says that recording really worked.
My business basically increased at about 50%.
And no wonder. Citro says the computer dialer called about 2,000 people a day. It only generated a handful of jobs a week, but in telemarketing, that's a great response rate. Citro says he was concerned about the misleading sales message, but the marketing company's money-back guarantee required him to use it for at least 30 days. Citro claims he did clear things up if people responded to the pitch.
And if I just corrected it when I'm talking to them, then I guess I didn't see a problem with it, as long as they know before I go out exactly what the situation is.
But that is not good enough, say many federal and state authorities. In most cases, unsolicited recorded sales calls are illegal. The Federal Communications Commission has fired off a dozen warnings to companies using them. In fact, this year, Florida and Oklahoma sued Paul's companies for deceiving businesses about the legality of these recorded sales calls. So who is Paul? Just a voice in the sales pitch or a real person? Turns out he's president of the companies that sell the telemarketing system. But he remains only a voice to us because he wouldn't return our calls or letters. And when we caught up with him in Houston, he wouldn't get out of his truck to answer our questions.
Dateline NBC, can we talk to you a minute?
Paul's company continues to sell its telemarketing system, but Jeff Citro stopped using it earlier this year when the Oklahoma Attorney General asked him to. That hasn't stopped Robert Braver from suing Citro, however. Citro denies any wrongdoing. Meanwhile, Braver vows to confront any company that pesters him at home with recorded messages.
Hello, this is Robert.
If you are a homeowner,
Please hold.
Most people feel that they don't pay for telephone service in their home in order to be interrupted at any given time by a commercial announcement.
Thank you very much for your time and interest, and goodbye for now.
Given that virtually all telemarketing pitches are unsolicited, what's legal? Some unsolicited recorded telephone calls are lawful, such as political messages or calls that are not trying to sell you a product or service. To find out more about federal law and the law in your state governing automated telemarketing systems, visit our website. The address is dateline.msnbc.com.